We are in Houston, Texas, at the 2026 Republican Party of Texas convention. I'm really thrilled to be joined by my very good friend, Brandon Waltens. He's the editor of Texas Scorecard. Brandon, it feels a little different. I think people have observed a change in the atmosphere and in kind of the general feel of this convention relative to one's past. I always say this is like the bow on the primary, and this time there's always calls for unity, but this time I feel like it's maybe more sincere.
Well, that's been everybody that we've talked to, right?
Yeah.
Especially elected officials, people who are going to be on the ballot. They're all talking about unity. And to an extent, that's always what, the convention's about.
It's
They
lip
put it on
service
the
at a minimum,
lanyards
usually.
and all that. But this year, people do understand that there is a threat. How seriously you take it depends on who you talk to, but there is certainly we do know that Democrats are going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in Texas. Some say $500 million or more.
Wow.
Republicans are going to have to spend at least as much. And so this could be $1 billion+ election in the state, which would be, the most expensive in history. Obviously, Democrats are fired up. They hate Trump, and that trickles down. And, so Republicans now realize that they're going to have to work harder this time, or at least take the threat seriously. This isn't going to be a time where they can just coast. But to your point, that's translated to a lot of actual calls for unity. I think you see people here, you just look at the lineup of speakers who we had earlier this week, right? I mean, one after another, you had Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, House Speaker Destin. Just about every statewide person has been here and spoken. Attorney General Ken Paxton, people who we know haven't always agreed or seen eye to eye on everything in the past, but they're all united around the common goal of beating James Tallarico and the rest of the Democrat ticket in November.
Is it fair to say that delegates have had a warmer welcome for our statewide officials too? And then what's the role maybe that this past campaign cycle has to play in that? I feel like people have been talking about a lot more conservative issues rather than just kind of the red meat, guns and life issues that you might ordinarily hear in the primary. Does that play a role into this at all?
Well, as far as a warmer welcome, look, I think it doesn't hurt when the governor brings a live elephant to the crowd,
Yeah.
right? That's a pretty good way to endear people who might be a little bit on the fence. But no, I think people are excited. Look, it's a good thing to see the leaders of the state actually here and doing that. And so I think that's exciting a lot of people. But when we talk about these issues, right, these legislative priorities, this is now the fifth or sixth time maybe that the party's done this. They've done it for about 10 years or so, these legislative priorities.
Sure, I think somebody said it's the sixth iteration, which sounds about right.
No longer is it a situation where we're seeing a lot of battles between people wanting to push. There's not a lot of, you look at the list of 15 potential priorities on there. There's none, at least in my view or opinion, that are, none of them are like bad, right? So there's no bad legislative priority that people are fighting against. It's all good issues, and obviously people are going to talk and they're going to whittle those down to 8, and we'll know more about those in the coming days, which ones ultimately make that cut. But the fact that people are so focused on these issues, it also shows that Republicans can walk and chew gum at the same time. I mean, we can look at what's happening in November and rally around that and try to unite for November. But there's also an eye towards 2027, and assuming that Republicans keep control, they're going to have to not only campaign on bold issues heading into the election, but there's also an expectation that they need to deliver on those as well.
Yeah, as someone who served on the LP committee, I was encouraged that there were really substantive issues. The list of LPs is actually quite longer than it has been in the past. There was attempts by a lot of people on the committee to put this extra very important critical issue on. So we've got a longer list. It's 8, but it's really quite a few more than that. I was encouraged, and maybe I shouldn't be surprised, Brandon. I'd be interested in your perspective, but issues of affordability, fiscal issues are very much back. Okay.
Yeah.
We've got property tax and elimination of property taxes on the final 15, probably going to make the final 8 this time. We've got ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying, which is kind of the linchpin for a lot of different fiscal issues dealing with your local jurisdictions, and several others that deal with the affordability crisis. So do you think it's cool? Is it fun? Is fiscal restraint sexy and back on the
that's what I was
menu?
going to say. Well, I didn't, not to insult or anything, but as well as I do that it's not always easy to talk about fiscal issues.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
When there are so many other, especially the cultural battles that we're all fighting here. That being said, people do understand that when it comes to property taxes, right? That's a uniting issue. That's a winning issue with Republicans and Democrats.
That's right.
To say that obviously property taxes.
Everybody's paying too much.
Everybody's paying too much, and I often say this, like I thought it was an important issue, and then I bought a home a couple years ago, and now I think it's the most important issue.
Yeah, my escrow went up I think
so
it goes up on the 1st
really
of this month, and I'm very upset. Yeah.
And there are some encouraging signs. Look, I mean, the governor's been out with his plan that, I think just one plank alone, eliminating the M&O property tax for homeowners would, that would be like a 50% reduction right off the bat for people. And then
at least, as well. Yeah, at least.
The 2/3 voter approval requirement for any tax increases, including, by the way,
bonds.
Including bonds.
Thank you for your reporting on that. Huge.
Yes.
Huge.
And so, there's some really good stuff there that you've already seen House members sign on to. I think there's a majority of Republican House members that have signed on to that. And obviously, there's a legislative process. We'll see what ends up happening. But I think that's exciting to see a statewide official championing the most aggressive plan that I've seen a statewide official push for, at least, and push it in a way that I think it's going to be a big issue in the next session. And then these issues, like some of them are common sense. The taxpayer-funded lobbying thing, it's been a legislative priority before. It's something that has passed out of the Senate and has had issues in the House. It's never moved out of the House. It's actually been voted down before in the House, right?
That's right.
The fact that is still there and could potentially be, yet again, another legislative priority for the party says that, this is an issue that Republicans do care about. It's not going away. And, it's all tied in together. I think if people are concerned about property taxes, if they think they're paying too much, if they're concerned about their school districts, right? If they're concerned about their cities, counties, then they should care about ending taxpayer-funded lobbying, because that's the well from which so much of these problems originate.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, to kind of talk about some of the other issues I've been hearing a lot about, it's almost fair to say that two brand new issues have kind of sucked a lot of the oxygen out of the room. That's dealing with the Islamification of Texas. A lot of chatter, a lot of coverage was discussed in the Legislative Priorities Committee, and then the dealing with the data centers. Are you hearing as much as I am on those two issues? And then maybe what's a third kind of newer issue that you have heard about this convention time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Islamization, however you want to say it. I've seen it kind of both ways. I don't know if it's been settled
Islamism, Islamification, or any variation of the two.
I think the platform language, or the priority language is don't Sharia my Texas, right?
Sure.
And this is an issue that is not, it's not brand new. There are people who've been certainly following this for a long time, but I think that we've seen an escalation of issues, be it, the Grand Prairie Water Park that wanted to have a Muslim-only day at their city-owned water park, to, of course, Epic City, the proposed Islamic development, Sharia development up in North Texas that has been, at least so far, stopped because of Attorney General Paxton and Governor Abbott and the local officials there at the county level. There's just a whole swath of these issues. CARE, right? Council of American Islamic Relations being deemed a terrorist organization, foreign terrorist organization in Texas. This is an issue that obviously is something that strikes to the core, especially because people see what's happening in Europe and they don't want to see it happen in Texas.
Sure.
And so it's certainly something that's important to people. The data center issue, this is an interesting one, if not, a little more maybe nuanced than the others, because I think you see people who, there's sort of advice. Some people are no data centers ever. Some are we want them to do it, but they're going to have to do it in a responsible way that doesn't increase electricity rates and use up all the water and increase.
There's a third contingency that wants to be ruled by them too. So where we fall, I don't know. Somewhere in the middle, perhaps.
Exactly. So that one I think is a little more nuanced than some of the others maybe. And so those are certainly big issues. And, look, I think that an issue that has been there, and it's one that I know that y'all have certainly been pushing, is pushing back against the forces that want to expand gambling in Texas.
Sure.
We know that Las Vegas Sands, the mostly Chinese based organization, right? Or at least they operate mostly casinos in China. This organization wants to put casinos in Texas. They've spent millions of dollars trying to do that. We see them frankly lose ground constantly in these elections over the last couple of cycles, but they show no signs of slowing down. They know that if they're able to get it done, they're going to make that money back tenfold, right? And so they're spending a lot of money to do it. And so you're seeing, of course, the priority that says, no gambling. So pushing back on that. And then that really begins though at the same time by saying, well, let's while we're pushing back against these corrupt casinos trying to move into Texas, let's stop our own form of that in the form of the state-run lottery, which we know is, of course, from recent reports, right, is completely open to fraud. You've got all sorts of scandals surrounding it. It's rigged. It's a total mess, and it's something that, again, I think it might be one of those bipartisan issues. I mean, Republicans and Democrats, I think, by and large, know that there's something wrong with the lottery. There's something wrong with this kind of gambling. There's something wrong with, be it casinos, the lottery, online, whatever. It's something that is really corrupting, and it's corrupting young people too now, especially with the online availability of it all.
Yeah, the efforts to take all of this digital, to bring the brick and mortars to Texas where they've not been, and then to try to resurrect the lottery as this prestigious government program that's going to fundamentally transform our public government schools. Pretty unbelievable. The more that the delegates, I think, have learned about the scandal in particular, the more willing, and it's not a hard sell. They're like, I think I do remember hearing about that. It's just been a year, and a lot's happened over the last year. And so there has been some appetite to try and address eliminating or abolishing the Texas lottery, pushing back on the efforts to expand gambling. It's been encouraging. It's been encouraging. We've been trying to talk about it for about a year now, and to see that come to fruition. It's on the list of 15 that they'll consider on the floor. A lot of people didn't think that was going to be possible. So, Brandon, maybe a parting word, something encouraging, or a call to action you have, or maybe something to look out for in the weeks ahead for the listeners and delegates here in Houston.
Well, I would say this. We're gonna know soon enough, depending. How long it takes after the convention. They got to, kind of tally the votes. It's thousands of delegates, so it's a little bit of a task. But once we get that top 8 list of priorities, those are the marching orders. But I think it's important for people to remember, right? If your issue, it's number 9, it doesn't quite miss the mark. It's not one of those. The legislature passes more than 8 bills a session, right? A few more than 8 bills, and so
a few more.
And so, just because an issue is not one of the legislative priorities doesn't mean that it's not something that's important to people. It doesn't mean that it's not something that they want to see happen. We've got a whole platform that is full of issues that I think Republicans would love to see put into action. There's 250 planks in that. And by the way, they pass a lot more than 250 bills. So we could pass everything in the platform, right, if there was a will to do it.
That's right.
But either way, this is only the beginning. We're going to November. We're going towards the next session. And I think people should be very, very motivated, but should be excited about the direction that we're heading.
It's my favorite part of the 2-year cycle in Texas, the political cycle here. Brandon Waltens is one of my favorite people in Texas politics. We're coming to you from the 2026 RPT convention here in Houston, Texas. This is Brandon Waltens. He's the editor at Texas Scorecard. We'll have more coverage for you coming up here real quick. So stay tuned.